Welcome to On the Couch, a regular catch-up where we discuss the issues facing media, marketing and advertising. Today on the couch, I've got Simon James Williams, who is the new Managing Director at Carat Australia in New Zealand. Welcome to the couch.
Thank you very much. Nice comfy couch. Enjoying it.
Well, look, in your role as a leader, I guess, of the industry, what is it do you think that advertisers are looking for today from their media agencies?
It's a real, I think, fine balance between quite a few different facets. I think one is going to be transparency, looking for a partner to navigate complexity. And I think as the role of the CMO as an advertiser begins to evolve into experience, into technology, really looking for that trusted partner to navigate those complexities, but also hopefully release some of that burden and navigate a way through it in the best possible way to deliver best outcomes on the bottom line. Bottom line. It's the major thing at the moment, moving away just from media effectiveness to truly showing a business outcome. And I believe that's what advertising should stand for and should really lead to.
Interesting, because a lot of marketers over the years have increasingly treated their media agency more as a supplier than a partner, haven't they?
It's an interesting proposition. I think if you let yourself become a supplier in that chain, then yeah, they fall suit to that. But I think ultimately that there's a role for transactional levels of media and partnerships that exist in that space. But I think more so than ever, there's a requirement to have a true partnership between advertisers or marketers and their agency. So I'd say Carat definitely hasn't stepped into that zone. We definitely still see ourselves as a trusted relationship and a trusted advisor, and therefore lead that full end-to-end execution.
So how is Carat and media agencies generally adapting to the new marketplace? Because there are a lot of changes happening up.
Certainly a lot of changes. I think adaptation comes through diversification foremost. I've said this quite often, but advertising or media can't solve a business problem in its end-to-end entirety. It's simply a connection point between multiple different assets. I believe us as Carat and the responsibility of us as an industry is to be able to look at the business problem first without looking at the proposition of media, and therefore solving that complexity all the way through the chain, and simply not just jumping in with how many TARPs do we need to achieve to do this, or what's the right digital approach. It's very much around, okay, what's the business problem? How are we going to tackle it? And then what's the pitch? How do we actually bring that to life?
I imagine when you first stepped into this role, for Australia and New Zealand, there'd be a number of issues confronting you. Well, what would be the biggest challenge that you think is facing the industry, but specifically you in your role?
Not so much a number of challenges or issues. It's probably more that we know that we need to increase our clients' growth potential. I think the biggest one was complexity. This market and markets alike, US, UK, good examples, are riddled with complexity, from diversification and out of home through the new connected economy, 5G introduction. How do we begin to look at the year of 2019 as connectivity? How do we begin to explore? How do we take clients on that journey? I would say that at the moment, if anything, it's more opportunity than a challenge. I think that we just need to get under the hood of it and look at the business outcome. I think when you start with the business challenge and understand what the marketer or the business is trying to achieve, the world's your oyster. I think it's actually really exciting. Less so a challenge, more an opportunity.
So your client's challenge is your opportunity?
Well, surely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's an opportunity in an equitable partnership, but for both to grow. And I think then that speaks to the truth of the partnership. No longer looking at transactional ways of working. Let's really get in and solve something greater on a bigger scale together. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier the idea of delivering results, and that's important. But there's a lot of conversation happening in the industry about getting the balance right between delivering short-term revenue or sales results and still focusing on the long-term brand building. How do you see that balance happening?
It's an interesting one. Without shutting it down, I mean, you can have both, but you have to understand, I think, exactly where you want to play in both. We personally believe in always having that BAU consistency that drives your business metrics and performance, but there's a 70-20-10 rule that you can run with. There's always room for innovation. I think as the GDP is split for the first time from marketing investment, as we've seen in our economy in Australia, and there's consumer anxiety that's increasing, business confidence is pushing cash back to shareholders rather than reinvesting in media. I think there is a significant opportunity for us not to fall into the same zone that the UK did during that kind of recession piece, where we pulled out a brand altogether and went performance, when the reality is that 2 years down the line, it was like, oh, we need to get back on brand.
What have we done?
And I think if I could add counsel to any of our clients is don't make the mistake that our predecessors have done. Let's make sure that we are merging the two together, driving consistency and performance, but don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Brand is absolutely essential. People still buy brands, and we can't forget that. Whilst we're in a commoditized environment where sometimes our consumers can be relatively fickle and seek to choose the best option that serves them in the right moment, equity in brand is essential. And we need to do both at the same time, but split our budgets effectively, understand the reach and the challenge of that budget. So yeah, bit of a wishy answer, but navigated.
No, I think that's part of it is investing today, but keeping an eye on next year as well.
I think so, and a good partner will help guide through that selection.
Now, you've already said the complexity is an issue, so I'm going to put you on the spot and say, what do you think is going to be the next big game changer? Because I read an article the other day that said blockchain is largely overrated. But transparency was the word of the year for media. But what's the next big game changer?
Look, I think the industry catches on to a buzzword every year and it becomes the catch cry. I think if we looked at the heart of what really is an area for true opportunity, but also one of complexity, is going to be the introduction, I think, of 5G. The key catch cry here is, in a connected world, we need to look at experience commerce. We need to look at all sorts of trends between you're now looking at your mobile device 10 times longer than ever. We look at like 10 years ago, WhatsApp and Uber went around. Now suddenly we have this interconnected, super high-speed internet infrastructure, and brands need to realize that advertising in those environments has to evolve. We can't simply have static banners or the wrong formats. The experience across everything from commerce right down the line to the way in which we advertise in-game or in-app or around environments is, I think, if you haven't focused on it, it's an absolute call from me to our partners to focus on experience.
Great insight, Simon. Thanks for joining us on the couch.
No worries at all. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us on the couch. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and stay tuned for more On the Couch coming very soon.